The Battles of Saratoga! The American Revolution. It's 1777. Time for a note-taking video. When you're done with the video, check out my game. Yeah! So first we have to ask the question, what was significant about Saratoga? Well, these battles were a turning point that brought the French into the war on the side of the Americans. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is that Canada and the 13 colonies were both controlled by the British in 1777. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of cities. First of all, there was Quebec. Okay, that may require a Googling right there. Fun fact, Quebec was founded in 1608, right after Jamestown. Montreal was another city controlled by the British, but only a year before Americans had control of it for a short while. Hey, and if you watch Liberty's Kids, you'll remember that Fort Ticonderoga got taken over by the Americans in 1775. The Americans had taken it over pretty easily, but in today's story, the British just take it back. So there was also the city of Albany, which sat on the Hudson River, and the British and the Americans were both trying to control it. If you're wondering why this is called a note-taking video, we'll get to that. You'll be able to take notes soon, they'll be on the right. Okay, as we finish up with this intro, you'll see that Boston, New York, and Philadelphia are further south. Okay, so the Hudson River, super important, it ran north-south between New York and Canada. Now the British were hoping to win the war quick. They wanted to control an area called the Hudson River Valley. So the British believed that if they could control the Hudson River Valley, then they could cut off the New England colonies from the rest of the colonies, and that way they'd be able to divide and conquer them.
Yeah, alright mate, let's go get him, let's divide and conquer.
So you may be wondering what the British had control of and what the Americans had control of. Let's talk. As you can see on the map, the colonists had control of Boston, Philadelphia, and places in Albany and Fort Ticonderoga. As for the British, there was this guy called Burgoyne, and he controlled Montreal. Yeah, I know, Burgoyne. Then there was St. Leger, or Leger, I'm not sure, and he was in Fort Oswego. Finally, in New York City, there was General Howe. The British were kind of hoping they were like superheroes whose powers would combine to destroy the Americans, but that's not quite what happened. So, the plan was to attack from the north, the south, and from Fort Oswego in the west. I always get directions mixed up. If they were successful, they would crush the Americans. But that's not what happened. Pay attention to what actually happened. So the British campaign went smoothly at first. Burgoyne moved his troops down to Fort Ticonderoga, which they captured in 1777 in July. Next, General St. Leger started moving his troops towards Fort Schuyler, also known as Fort Stanwix. By the way, I feel like American forts are like super cool looking. The British tried to lay siege to the fort for like 21 days, but it just didn't work. And eventually Benedict Arnold, yep, that Benedict Arnold, tricked the British into thinking he had more troops than he actually did. Eventually St. Leger retreated into Canada, which left General Burgoyne without the support that he needed in Albany. Now I'm guessing that Burgoyne was probably thinking, my buddies are going to show up. Kind of like on your birthday party right before everybody gets there and you're kind of wondering, is anybody actually going to show up? The British sent a detachment of soldiers to Bennington, but ended up losing almost 1,000 men, really reducing their numbers. And what about General Howe, who was in New York? Listen, you're not going to believe this. He went all the way from New York to Philadelphia the long way, and decided, you know what, I might just capture the capital city instead. Even though this had some symbolic significance, it didn't help Burgoyne, who was now abandoned and had no help in Albany. By this point, the American militia had started to outnumber the British troops. Help me! Burgoyne was still expecting help from Fort Oswego in New York, but none was on the way.
Sorry.
Meanwhile in Philadelphia, George Washington fought a battle with General Howe in the Battle of Brandywine, but was defeated. Pew, 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 pew. And guess what? This happened on September 11th, 1777. On September 19th, the first Battle of Saratoga was fought at the Battle of Freeman's Farm. And here's where the British kind of won but lost, because they lost so many troops. Next came Saratoga Part 2, the Battle of Bemis Heights, but this is where they lost instead of won lost like last time. Why does that British soldier on the left look like he's dabbing? The British general Burgoyne retreated to Saratoga, and this is where he surrendered 6,000 of his troops. Poof! So why were these battles significant? Because it brought the French into the war against the British when they realized that the Americans had a good chance at winning victory. So in February 1778, the French formed an alliance with the American patriots. This would be a great time to start chanting USA, starting off super quiet and then going super loud. You know, if you're allowed to. Okay, I'm going to give you a gift called the Super Simplified Recap. Burgoyne moved south and took Ticonderoga. St. Leger moved east but retreated to Oswego. Howe sailed south instead of helping Burgoyne. Burgoyne attacked the Americans near Saratoga. Horatio defeated Burgoyne at Saratoga. France was convinced about a journey to the USA. Whew, I am so sorry. I got way too into that. It started out just saying it, then it turned into a rap, and then I just got carried away. It happens a lot. Okay, start taking notes. You don't have to take these notes. You could go back a little bit and take the more simplified version. And then stick around for a game afterwards that I want to show you. Hopefully your teacher has printed that out already if they are super awesome and well prepared. Yeah. Thanks for watching the video and putting up with all my mispronunciations and different accent. Cheers. Hey, what's up? I hope you liked my video. This is the Battle of Saratoga, the board game. So, you start with 2 counters each on the starting positions. You can either play as the British or the Americans. Okay, so the goal for the British is to try and capture one of the starting positions of the other player. The goal for the Americans is to do the same. You can't have another counter on there when you capture it. Okay, let's try a practice round. The yellow player moves 1 space when they roll 1. The red player moves 2 spaces because they rolled a 2. The yellow player rolls a 3, which means they get an extra counter on their starting space. The red player rolls a 4, which means that they remove an enemy counter from the board. The yellow player rolls a 5, which means that they have to remove their counter back to a starting position. Now, when the red player rolls a 6, that means they get a choice of what to do. They decided to move 2 spaces and attack the player on their starting space. So you do rock, paper, scissors to see who wins. In this case, the yellow player, they get to keep their counter on the board, and the red player has to remove their counter from the board. Now, yellow player rolls a 2, and they complete the game and win because they managed to capture the enemy space. And that's it. If you like the game, check it out at teacherspayteachers.com. There are also worksheets that come along with this, an additional card game, and timelines and other activities. Also check out the Battle of Brandywine, which is a companion game to this game. You can also check out more videos on YouTube at History Board Games.